All right, I'm going to respond to a lot of this flack that I'm getting over my April Fool's Day video from the other day. I did a video, you can find it on my channel, that was a joke, and it is telling you how to, in theory, remove the iCloud lock from any iPhone by drilling into the CPU and drilling out the imprinted Apple logo on there. Which, if you think about that, if you had to place a $100 bet on this multiple choice question, what happens if you drill into the CPU? A, you're going to destroy the CPU and the phone's not going to boot. Or B, you're going to magically be able to remove some function of the CPU so that it still works and the phone magically no longer understands some data that's stored on the NAND chip. So A or B, you got to place a $100 bet. Which one is it going to be? So most people that have learned how to kind of be a skeptic and a thinker, if you had no other information, what is drilling into the CPU going to do? You're going to pick A. Drilling into the CPU is most likely going to damage the CPU. The CPU is going to be required, so your phone's probably not going to work. And that was the response that most people got from this video. The reason that I put this video there, folks that follow my channel or that have come to the course know that one of the things that I really hate about our industry is please bro solutions. I really can't stand the idea of us sort of propping up the board repair industry by creating these, solutions where you can say something, please bro, my iPhone's got, no backlight. What do I need to do? And then someone will post a diagram, change these chips, and circle a bunch of chips, one of which may actually be the problem. That doesn't teach you how to diagnose and troubleshoot a problem. That's just kind of throwing random parts at a phone. And if you're not able to understand the problem that you're trying to solve, then you're not able to really critically evaluate these solutions. And I see this all the time. So I made that video to kind of encourage people to step back and realize that you really shouldn't just blindly follow advice of anyone. You need to always think. And this comes up. This came up a few times in the course where people sort of noticed that there was kind of a cultural or maybe a geographic bias towards please bro solutions. And I had a student in the course one time who, when you come to my practical board repair school, there is a whole lot of just a demanding that you think that goes on. So I'm constantly asking questions, and if you say something, I'll say, why do you think that? And we'll kind of explore different ideas rather than just telling you the answer. And this one guy was really resistant to that, and he would almost apologize before asking questions, which you're here to ask questions. That's the entire point. And I remember saying, why are you like that, man? Like, he grew out of it by the end of the week, but why do you keep acting like it's a crime to ask a question or to demand that I explain or provide evidence behind what I'm telling you? And because I think that's a fantastic thing. And he said, when we were growing up, in school, we were taught never question the teacher. That the teacher is the authority and you accept what the teacher says, which is a horrible way to learn. There's nothing that I like more than a student who can challenge or question me and to require that I'm able to substantiate whatever it is that I'm telling them. There's nothing that I value more as a teacher than a student who can prove me wrong about something. That is the best, because then we both learn something. So for folks that are out there that have trouble kind of having this healthy skepticism and have been trained to just believe what an authority figure tells them, Knock that shit off. Knock that shit off. That is no way to learn. There's no way to learn. And there's no reason why anyone, I believe anyone, can learn how to do board repair. Anyone can learn how to think. But you have to be willing to first believe that you can question, you can think, that you're a smart person. And everything that I know about board repair, remember, I started this in my dining room. I have zero formal training in electronics. I have never taken a electrical course of any kind. I have never had a teacher tell me what a capacitor is and does. Everything that I know, I figured out just by being thoughtful and reading things. And if something didn't make sense, I would question it. And I encourage you to do the same. So one of my favorite things from back in university professor days that I would use in my general biology course is to help students develop their internal skeptic, that part of you that needs to go, I'm not sure I believe this. And how do you do that? In the modern world, there's just so much information out there, and we're constantly being bombarded, not just by pseudoscience that's out there on the internet, but fake news. When you read an article, how do you know whether or not there's some bias there? How do you know whether or not this is actually true? What is it about our society that makes us sort of susceptible to, every day you'll see on Facebook somebody sharing a post that you go to Snopes.com and it's totally fake. What is it that makes us so gullible? And I think that's a big problem that we didn't used to have, but now we do, because there is just immense resources that are going into targeting us, into trying to get us to believe things for marketing and selling ads. A news article isn't going to really get any traction unless it is dramatic, unless it stands out. It's like the entire internet is Las Vegas Strip with lights and sounds, just sort of everything is just clamoring for our attention. So the only things that kind of make it on our radar screen are the most outrageous, drama-filled posts and articles, and therefore they tend to be overstated. They tend to make claims that aren't true. So I want to share with you the thing that I think is one of the best tools out there. I love this book that's written by one of the best skeptics, Carl Sagan. He wrote The Demon-Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark. Love that book. I put a link in my description for you to go buy that book if you're in that category of finding yourself kind of believing things. If you're in the mindset of, I think that vaccines cause autism. What? Go read, go find out. Yeah, I think the earth might be flat. Yeah, I don't believe in global warming. Things that are these sort of pseudoscience ideas that are kind of polluting the world, that most people that are critical thinkers just don't believe. And why not? Why don't they believe these things? Because they've learned how to question, and I want you to learn how to question. So I'm going to click over and share an excerpt. This is my favorite part of the book, where Carl Sagan puts together a list of things that you should kind of have in the back of your mind whenever you read a news article, whenever you read a website claim, whenever you're thinking of buying something, whenever you're thinking of drilling into a CPU just because somebody on the internet said to do that. Come on, let's think. So this is called his baloney detection kit. So I'm going to click over and share this with you if I can. Let's see. Here we go. So let's click over to screen. All right, so this is from that book, The Demon-Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark. All right, so what's in the kit? Tools for skeptical thinking. All right, so let's see if he has some nuggets here. Among the tools, wherever possible, there must be independent confirmation of the facts. Independent confirmation of the facts. So this is one of the things that it's number one. If you are sitting there thinking, should I drill into the CPU? Does that sound reasonable to you? Has there been any independent confirmation of these facts? So what would you do to answer that question? You would just go Google, drill CPU iCloud lock, something like that. Is there anything else? Is there forums? Where did I learn about this? Is there something published? You could post in a group, has anyone ever heard of this? And, try to find some sort of a bona fide independent confirmation of the facts. And since I just made this up, there is no independent confirmation of the facts. So that should be your first big red flag. So let's look at the next one. Encourage substantive debate on the evidence by knowledgeable proponents of all points of view. So a lot of times you'll find an article that just makes claims, but doesn't really encourage, or it dismisses people that are critical of the claims. Arguments from authority carry little weight. Yes. So that goes back to this, should I drill into the CPU because Jessa, an authority figure, said I should do it? Fuck no. Who am I? I'm a mom sitting in New York. No, you shouldn't just sort of accept that authority figures have some mouthpiece of God. They're just because an authority figure or someone claiming to be an authority figure says something, that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And this is true for your news organizations. Whatever news organization you trust, don't assume that just because they said something that it's true. I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about in this video, and I went looking for pseudoscience articles, and I was stunned that I found articles from the Cleveland Clinic. The Cleveland Clinic is a great institute. It's a bona fide medical establishment. They have some of the best physicians there, and there are articles written by these Cleveland Clinic physicians that were just total BS. So don't trust something just because an authority figure says it. Here we go. Spin more than one hypothesis. If there's something to be explained, think of all the different ways in which it could be explained. Think of the test by which you might systematically disprove each of these alternatives. What survives? The hypothesis that resists disproof in this Darwinian selection, meaning if you've got a bunch of ideas that sort of describe how something might happen, then think about how you could disprove those, and eventually you'll kind of whittle down by killing off the hypotheses that the evidence just doesn't fit into what is most likely to be true. So if you do that, and you have sort of multiple working hypotheses, then you have a much better chance of kind of finding the right answer than if you just simply run with the first idea that caught your fancy. So, we can apply that one here as well to this iCloud lock scenario. What are the possible ways that we could circumvent the iCloud hardware lock? And you could think about, could it be done through some sort of a software update? Could it be done through a contact at Apple? Could it be done through an elegant solution of removing every chip that was part of the chain of trust? And just sort of think about all these alternative hypotheses and then weigh that against the idea that drilling into the CPU is the best solution or that it would work at all. Let's see, what else is on here? Try not to get overly attached to a hypothesis just because it's yours. So a lot of times I see on these long debates about pseudoscience-y kind of topics. I was involved in one recently where a guy made this sort of scathing post about vaccination and autism, which if you go and really read research, most thinking people will recognize that there is a huge body of pseudoscience supporting the idea that vaccination is linked to autism. But there's a much larger body of thoughtful, fact-based evidence that pretty clearly proves that that's not true. And so you kind of have to think, like, why is there this split, and really come to form your own opinion. But a lot of people get entrenched in some initial idea. They'll find a guru and they'll just believe everything the guru says, and then they don't want to ever question that, because that would sort of undermine their support of that guru, and that would make them look bad, so they don't want to do that. So don't be like that. Be open to multiple ideas, and be ready to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. That's part of questioning. That's part of being a skeptic. I've been wrong many times. I've said things on this channel that were, this is what I'm thinking right now, that are later wrong. And that's okay. That's part of approaching life like a scientist and thinking like a scientist. All right, let's see what else is in our baloney detection kit. Quantify. If whatever it is you're explaining has some measure, some numerical quantity, you'll be much better able to discriminate among competing hypotheses. So what is vague and qualitative, meaning no numbers, just sort of a little bit more, a little bit less, can be open to many explanations. If there's a chain of argument, every link in the chain must work, including the premise. That's one that came up for me recently when, as part of this sort of anti-vaccination rant, the guy had linked, like, here's 100 different PhDs and MDs that all support this. Really? Well, let's check those out. That's evidence. We're not just going to believe them. Let's actually see what they have to say. So I clicked on the first one, and it was a very educated woman who was making the claim that she believes that vaccines are inherently unsafe. And in her first minute, in the first minute of the video, what jumped out at me is this is what she said. She said, it's clear that autism has been dramatically on the rise since the 1980s. And if you go and independently verify that, that's true. That's a fact. But then she said, and so we have to ask why. And then her statement was, the only thing that has changed since the 1980s to now is the number of vaccines that are mandatory, period. And then she went on to make a giant argument based on that premise, that the only thing that has changed since the 1980s is the number of required mandatory vaccines. So let's stop and think about that statement, because in order for everything she says after that to be true, this statement has to be true. It's a chain of logic, a chain of arguments. So if I were to ask you again, tell me, if I hadn't told you what her answer was, let's just ask you, what would you say is the only thing that has changed since the 1980s to now? I bet that a heck of a lot of you guys are saying cell phones. Cell phones have changed. Yes, they have. So vaccine is not the only thing that has changed. And therefore, whatever she says after that, really, we can't even listen to, because it's all based on a statement that we've decided is false. All right, let's see what else. Chain of argument, every link must work. Yes, not just most of them. Occam's razor. This convenient rule of thumb urges us, when faced with two hypotheses that explain the data equally well, to choose the simpler. So this is sort of the keep it simple, stupid, KISS principle. So if you have somebody that's, got some sort of ridiculous claim, that's a new claim, consider it against what we kind of already know. And if they both could explain that, then the simpler one is more likely, not necessarily, but more likely to be true. Always ask whether a hypothesis can be, at least in principle, falsified. So if you say something that is really untestable or unfalsifiable, then they're really not worth very much. So when you're thinking of something that you're reading in the news or some article or something like that, in order to really believe what they're saying, you really need to be able to subject it to sort of scientific analysis. You need to be able to do an experiment to either prove or disprove that. And if you can't prove or disprove that, then we just don't know. It isn't something that you would want to put much faith into, because it doesn't fit that rule. All right, what else is in here? I love the baloney detection kit, for sure. Let's see. The reliance on carefully designed and controlled experiments is key. We will not learn much from mere contemplation. Let's see what else. Control experiments are essential. For example, a new medicine is alleged to cure a disease 20% of the time, then we must make sure that a control population taking a dummy sugar pill, which as far as the subjects know might be the new drug, does not also experience spontaneous remission of the disease 20% of the time. So you have to kind of think like a scientist. Variables must be separated. So if you have to look at things one at a time and control for everything else. Let's continue down. In addition to teaching us what to do when evaluating a claim to knowledge, any good baloney detection kit must also teach us what not to do. Help us recognize the most common and perilous fallacies of logic. So everybody needs to know the fallacies of logic. You can find lots of good examples in religion and politics. So among these fallacies are, so this is something you should know, write it down, think about this. Ad hominem. So this is Latin for to the man, attacking the arguer and not the argument. So this is you'll see this a lot, especially when two people are trying to argue about something. And one person starts to say things like, anyone who would believe that is just stupid. Then that kind of takes away from the argument that the first person is making. If that's it's like they've run out of logical facts. They've run out of evidence. They've run out of ways to substantiate the claim that they're making. They're at the end of the argument, and the only thing that's left for them to do is to say, oh yeah, well then you're stupid. If you believe that, then you're dumb. And I noticed in one of these I watched a second video. It was the only one I could only stand to watch two for this anti-vaccination rant. And the next guy said he was sort of trying to discredit the established medical profession, and he was saying, the medical profession is arrogant. And then he went on to make an incredibly arrogant statement about how he's the only one who foresaw, X, Y, and Z. So it's things like that. When you start hearing in a article, in someone's position, these attacks, personal attacks, then, that really undermines their argument. And if you are arguing something, then don't use personal attacks. Personal attacks mean you have nothing else to say. You can't substantiate your claim other than saying, oh yeah, you're dumb. Let's see, what is the next logical fallacy? Argument from authority. So we covered that already. Because President Richard Nixon should be reelected because he has a secret plan to end the war in Southeast Asia. But because it was a secret, there was no way for the electorate to evaluate on its merits. The argument is amount to trusting him because he was president. A mistake, as it turned out. Yes, trust no one. Do not automatically trust authorities. Argument from adverse consequences. For example, a God meting out punishment and reward must exist, because if he didn't, society would be much more lawless and dangerous, perhaps even ungovernable. Or the defendant in a widely publicized murder trial must be found guilty. Otherwise, it will be an encouragement for other men to murder their wives. So this is argument from adverse consequences. That's a logical fallacy. When you see something like that, it should make your baloney detector go, wah, 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 baloney. Appeal to ignorance. The claim that whatever has not been proven false must be true, and vice versa. For example, There's no compelling evidence that UFOs are not visiting the Earth, therefore UFOs exist. And there's intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. Or there may be 70 gazillion other worlds, but not one is known to have the moral advancement of the Earth, so we're still central to the universe. So that's the sort of appeal to ignorance. This impatience with ambiguity can be criticized in the phrase, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. I like that. Next one is special pleading, often to rescue a proposition in deep rhetorical trouble. So that's the same thing when you're out of arguments. Special pleading. I get special pleading a lot. I got special pleading today. The guy's premise is, I would like to take your course for a discount. That's his claim that he'd like to substantiate. So evidence that he could present to me that might make me sort of believe that argument and offer him a discount to take the course might be some sort of business relationship, some sort of alternative arrangement, I don't know, some sort of volume thing, some sort of, parts or equipment or something else I need. He could come paint my house. I have no idea. Any of those would be potentially reasonable arguments that he could make, but he doesn't. But in the absence of those arguments, then he just went with special pleading, which is, I want you to give me $100 or $200 or $500 of your money, Jessa, even though you're a stranger, because I want to come take your course. And the support I have for that is, insert terrible thing that's happened to me in my life here. I'm disabled. I'm a single parent. Like any sort of special pleading it really means that you don't really have a valid argument that stands on its own. Let's see. Begging the question, also called assuming the answer. For example, we must institute the death penalty to discourage violent crime. So we must institute the death penalty to discourage violent crime. But we don't really know that the death penalty would discourage violent crime. That's unproven. But does violent crime rate, in fact, fall when the death penalty is imposed? We don't know. So you can't just state something is going to happen without evidence. Or the stock market fell yesterday because of a technical adjustment in profit taking by investors. But is there any independent evidence for the causal role of the adjustment in profit taking? Have we learned anything at all from this explanation? No. Next, observational selection, also called the enumeration of favorable circumstances, or as the philosopher Francis Bacon described it, counting the hits and forgetting the misses. For example, a state boasts of the presidents it has produced, but is silent on its serial killers. Yes. Statistics of small numbers. This is a really good one. They say 1 out of every 5 people is Chinese. How is this possible? I know hundreds of people and none of them are Chinese. Yours truly. Or, I've thrown 3 sevens in a row. Tonight, I can't lose. So statistics and understanding statistics is huge, especially because there's some other great books that kind of are really interesting that turns out humans are terrible, awful, just terrible. We have horrible innate ability to judge statistics. So, what's the likelihood that this is going to happen to you? Those sorts of things. We are just ridiculously poor because of our kind of egocentric mindset. So we suck at statistics. So you have to really beware that anecdotal evidence, meaning something happened to my friend, therefore, it doesn't really mean anything. You can't apply one thing that happened to your friend one day to a population and therefore estimate the chance that that might happen to you, or even the chance whether or not that's common or not. Let's see. Let's finish this up if we can. Misunderstanding the nature of statistics. Same kind of thing. For example, President Dwight Eisenhower expressing astonishment and alarm discovering that fully half of all Americans have below average intelligence. Yeah, exactly. Half of all Americans have below average intelligence. Yes, they do, because that's how statistics works. Half of any average is going to be below average. inconsistency. For example, prudently plan for the worst of which a potential military adversary is capable, but thriftily ignore scientific projections on environmental dangers because they're not proven. Or attribute the declining life expectancy in the former Soviet Union to the failure of communism many years ago, but never attribute the high mortality rate in the United States, now the highest of all the major industrial nations, to the failures of capitalism. Right, so inconsistency. So you can't say one thing without saying the other. Or consider it reasonable for the universe to continue to exist forever into the future, but judge absurd the possibility that it has had infinite duration into the past. One without the other. Non sequitur, Latin for it doesn't follow. Our nation will prevail because God is great. But nearly every nation pretends this to be true. And then this one, post hoc ergo propter hoc, Latin for it happened after, so it was caused by. So this is the causation equals correlation. This is a really, really common one that you see in almost every argument that that really is not supported by facts. I know of a 26-year-old who looks 60 because she takes contraceptive pills. So it's the because. A, because, B, when there's no proof of a relationship there. Or before women got the vote, there were no nuclear weapons. That nuclear weapons caused by women voting, they're just not related. Let's see, let's see if he has anything else. Yeah, this is too long to kind of go over anymore. Is there anything else that I want to kind of... Here's one, weasel words. Weasel words, I like that. Weasel words. When language is important, when you're reading an argument, the words that someone chooses to use. For example, I did this myself in some of these responses that I made to this iCloud unlocking video, where people would say, Jessa, you're making people ruin their phones. You are doing a bad thing because think of all of the destruction of property that's going to happen as a result of your video. And my opinion on that is that if you have an iCloud locked phone, that's really already not a functional phone. So it's already useless. So doing anything else to something useless just makes it still useless. So it doesn't really matter. And that's why I didn't. That's why I loved this video, honestly. I thought it taught a good lesson on not just blindly following authority figures, not following please bro solutions, learning to use your own brain. And it really, in my opinion, doesn't cause any harm. In fact, I'd argue that it actually does good, because if you have an iCloud locked board, it's iCloud locked because it belongs to someone else and you are unable to contact, or you don't know who that person is. If you knew who it belonged to, you'd call them up and say, what's your passcode? And then it wouldn't be iCloud locked anymore. That's the real solution for iCloud unlocking, is find the original owner and call them up and say, hey bro, can you unlock this phone for me? And if it's legitimately yours and it's legitimately in your possession and you can establish that with the guy, he'll say, sure. That's the path to iCloud unlocking. If you can't do that because you don't know whose phone this is, then the chance that that person isn't going to be cool with it being in your possession is pretty high. Meaning it's his phone and he wants it back. And if you were to find him up and say, hey, I got your phone, he'd say, great, send it to me. So it's true that, most iCloud locked devices, they all belong to somebody else. And most of the time, if you're in the boat of trying to iCloud unlock something, you don't know the history of how it became separated from the original owner to begin with, most of the time. So what I said, and this is kind of the weasel words, or choosing your language, I would specifically choose to use the word stolen. So I would respond and say, in my opinion, someone else's non-functional stolen iPhone that's iCloud locked is really not any different from someone else's stolen iPhone that has a hole in the CPU. Both of them are not functional, not able to be used as a phone. So you have to kind of pay attention to the specific language that people use to make their argument. The other ones were suppressed evidence or half-truths. Straw man, this is a good one. What is a straw man argument? Caricaturing a position to make it easier to attack. So when sort of someone puts words in your mouth and then they argue against that, but that's not really what you said. For example, scientists suppose that living things simply fell together by chance, a formulation that willfully ignores the central Darwinian insight that nature ratchets up by saving what works and discarding what doesn't. So scientists don't believe that living things simply fell together by chance. Scientists believe that over unimaginable lengths of time, tiny variations in structure gave a competitive advantage that over time that humans are not able to really comprehend allowed for gradual change that ultimately resulted in a population no longer being able to reproduce and therefore become separate species. That's what scientists believe. Scientists don't believe that things fell together by chance. Or this one, short-term, long-term fallacy. Environmentalists care more for snail darters and spotted owls than they do for people. So that's the same thing. It's just putting words into someone's mouth. If you asked an environmentalist, do you care more for snail darters and spotted owls than people? They would say, no, of course not. That's ridiculous. Confusion of correlation and causation, which we already talked about up above. Slippery slope related to the excluded middle. This is a good one. If we allow abortion in the first weeks of pregnancy, it will be impossible to prevent the killing of a full-term infant. So the slippery slope idea. And I think that's probably good for that. So my point in this video is go read that book. Read this article, Carl Sagan's The Fine Art of Baloney Detection, and know these things. Keep them in the front of your mind whenever you're reading an article that seems to be kind of making some weird claims. And whenever you are faced with an online argument in a forum or something like that, whenever someone in authority is telling you something, a teacher, question them. Wherever you are in the world, question your goddamn teachers all the time. If they're a good teacher, they will welcome that. And if they're a bad teacher, then you should know that so that you don't take what they say that seriously. It's your education, it's your mind, it's your chance to learn. I wanted to, and here's why I was prompted to make this video, because of this picture. Feeling excited, which I'm sure these are all trolls. At least I hope they're all trolls. I love this one from Elliot. Isn't that nice? Look at that. He said it didn't work. Can you believe that? And then here's one. I did this, my phone won't come on. Did I mess up anything? Which I also hope was a troll because this guy's from Texas. But, but come on, seriously? Look, Christine, people actually drilled into the CPU. Which, even that, this idea of drilling into the CPU as a bad thing, I would question. What is the first step if you were going to do a bona fide iCloud lock hardware solution? Answer, remove the CPU. So, it doesn't, you didn't have anything to start with if you were learning a hard lesson on learning how to think. And I got in trouble with Lewis, who, he was like, you're just being mean, which is insane because he's actually mean, like all the time. And he was the guy that called up or talked to somebody and said, I don't mean to be mean, but that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, to her face like a week ago. But he said, would you post a link to that video to a young white person in Rochester, New York, who had Down syndrome? And I said, no, I would not. No, I would not. I would not expect someone with Down syndrome to be able to possess the baloney detection kit required to recognize that this is not a good idea. And his opinion was, well, that's what you're doing for the rest of the world. And I argue that if you are a person that has such a cognitive defect that you can't have rational thought, then you shouldn't be trying to repair boards. I strongly believe that. And the reason why is this stack of repairs that I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this stream off and do a different stream to show you my entire queue today is prior repair attempts and fuckery. People just farting around on these boards and destroying things. So if you are not able to question, to read, to form an opinion, to know enough to experiment, develop your skill set on things like iCloud lock boards. Take the iCloud lock board that you just drilled a hole in the CPU, change all the connectors on it, really get to be good with technical proficiency, and then really learn how to be a diagnostician, then fix boards so that you're not generating piles of shit like that. Let's go ahead and look at the chat, and then I think I'm gonna end this stream. Let's see, pop out chat. Pop out chat. I didn't read any of this chat. Let's scroll up. Some people become fanatical about their logical conclusion and believe everyone else are idiots for not believing their views. Oh, I think I missed some of the chat. That's probably not the beginning. Do you ever block anyone? Let's have Moby Fix block people then. Is there a fix if you rip a pad on an iPhone motherboard? It depends on the pad. In general, yes, but you need to figure that out. You need to think. You need to look at the board. You need to understand what those pads are for. Where do they go? What are they doing? Figure that out. I knew the iCloud unlock was BS the second she said drill into the Apple. Good for you, Alvin, because you're a smart guy and you know how to think. Surely Apple engineers would not try to store iCloud specifically at the Apple logo on the processor. Right, plus that stamp is pretty random. I mean, sometimes it's even printed in the opposite direction. Pad is in where the trace that solder a wire, that's the best thing to do, yes. Chris Long. Why is the hole in my iPhone chip smoking? Don't know. iCloud solution tutorial was great. Alvin, see, you were right. You need to drill into the bottom near the top side corner. Yeah, I saw the video iCloud unlocked 100% and clicked it, but before it loaded, I remembered the date and closed the video. Let's see. Talking about right to repair stuff. What is this, a lecture? I stumbled onto an online class course. Kind of. Jessa is justifying her April Fool's video by reading the quotes of famous authors. What I was doing is I was sharing with you one of the things that I used to share with students in my general biology course, which is the baloney detection kit. Something that you should always think about whenever you're reading a news article that seems to be making an outrageous claim, whenever you're speaking with someone online or a friend and they're sort of trying to substantiate a belief in something that you think is probably BS, it's tools to develop a healthy skepticism. And I think that's essential for every kid and definitely every adult. Statistically, 20% of accidents are caused by drunk drivers. Therefore, it means 80% are caused by sober drivers. Conclusion, if sober people stay off the roads, there would be less accidents. Well, that's probably true. I suggest you remove this iCloud video before it goes up. No, I love the iCloud lock video. I absolutely love it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. And the reason why is because it does no harm if you did try it. You can't take a dead board and make it more dead. It's already dead. So go ahead, set it on fire. It doesn't matter. You've got someone else's stolen phone. Fuck with it. I don't give a shit. In fact, I think it's good because if a fucked iCloud locked board gets to the point where it can't turn on, that's a good thing. It's a good thing because that person can't then sell it to someone who is a layperson who's unaware of iCloud lock, who might buy a phone and then be screwed. That can't happen anymore. That's a good thing. And it's also something that I think will prevent you from paying all of the people that are doing all these other, these like BS money, things that cost money, iCloud lock solutions that are just bad. I think it's bad. I think iCloud lock is a wonderful thing. I think it is bad to pay someone to go, let's say they have a contact at Apple that are able to remove the iCloud lock from your device. Now you have stolen someone's phone. That is a bad thing. I think it's fantastic if you have a hole in that board so that you can't do that. That is top notch. That is great. That works for me. I think it's fantastic if you take a second and you realize, yeah, I am a Please Bro tech. I follow Please Bro solutions. I trust in authority figures. I ask for solutions rather than learning how to think. I think it is fantastic if this video makes you stop and say, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I think it's fantastic if this video makes you stop and say, maybe I shouldn't be repairing boards. Maybe I, need to get educated or something like that. I think all of those are great, and it is absolutely my intended consequence of this video. Plus, I think it's funny. Let's see. I'm reading this. Jessa, you made me ruin my life because of your video. I doubt that's true, Chris Long. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Yes, that's fantastic. Like this one, I was gonna, this is too long, but I had pulled up this ridiculous example of pseudoscience, this guy that says cancer's a fungus, all cancers are a fungus. Anything that starts with all or 100% is automatically false. But that, cancers are caused by fungus, all of them. That's an extraordinary claim. You need extraordinary evidence, not the ridiculous non-evidence that he had on his paper. I can't scroll up. I don't think I can see this chat. What do you mean in your opinion, though? Did you not show Lewis a bunch of pictures people had sent of having done it or in the process of doing it? Honestly, I think I just showed you guys these same pictures, but I believe that those are troll pictures. I mean, look at the comments on that video. I was surprised. I thought all the comments would be, ha, April Fools. I was surprised at how, once again, the internet is a room of 14-year-old boys. It works great for me, including Lewis's own comment, which is, bravo, madam, works great. Couldn't agree more with something that I can't read. Providers in Canada require the original owner to unlock a phone with a provider. It costs $35 to $75 to unlock a phone from a provider's network. Things like that are great. I bought a phone from a pawn shop. That was a bad idea. And the previous owner refuses to give the iCloud password because he said the owner of the pawn shop screwed him over. Then return the phone to the pawn shop. That's exactly it. That is a stolen phone. The guy wants it back. He's telling you that. He's saying, I don't think I got enough money from the pawn shop. I don't like that deal. So no, I don't. I'm not willing to honor the contract with a pawn shop. Pawn shop, any good pawn shop is going to not buy iCloud lock devices. That is like rule number one. If your pawn shop doesn't even recognize iCloud lock, that's not a place you want to be buying anything from. That is a great example. Your recourse, charge back the pawn shop. Return that phone. It was a bad deal. You're stealing that guy's phone. He doesn't want you to have the phone. He did not get paid for his phone. It should not be iCloud unlocked. Keep the unlocked video up. You're not ruining people's phones. Absolutely. Of course I'm going to keep that video up. You're giving them the most valuable tool, critical thinking. Yes, that's exactly why I made this video. Why would you want to ruin somebody's phone? You can't ruin a ruined phone. I wouldn't say stolen because it's not all the time true. I say stolen. It is absolutely stolen. If it's not stolen, call up the guy and tell him to give you his passcode. Extraordinary stupid people requires extraordinary patience. Hey guys, do the video about the iCloud solution right. I avoided that video. It can be salvaged. People sell non-working phones for many reasons. Sure, this is a non-working phone. You can sell a non-working phone. It was always a non-working phone. An iCloud locked phone is not a phone. You can't do anything with it. Let's see. When you make them back to life, the original owner didn't remove his account because the phone was dead. Right, but it's his phone. He may not wish for you to have it. I mean, we do that all the time. There's thousands of iCloud locked devices here. I don't consider them it's not my right to take someone's property without their knowledge and sell it. That's just not. The demon haunted world should be required reading in high school. Absolutely. Let's see. Slippery slope, yes. People care about their pets, but they still euthanize them. I question the nightly news a lot. Some of the reports are simply to fill airtime. A customer brought one iCloud locked phone to me that said, "I'm going to shoot your face when I find you." Okay. Lewis did call for people for them to pre-remove the solder balls since they contain the data electronics. Oh my fucking God. Yeah, he sure did. He sure did. Cognitive defect is certainly the right word. I love that. Humans evolved to accept canned knowledge without question. We're predisposed to believe in demonstrably false things. It's a culture thing. Yeah, it's a culture thing. Well, you know, hey, welcome to the culture that's in here, that's in my videos, means ask fucking questions all the time. Insist that whatever I tell you, that I can substantiate with facts. Or tell me to fuck off. That's the way learning goes. Don't you want your kids to be like that, Christine, in school? To insist that the teacher can substantiate whatever she's saying? Yeah. Be thinkers, that's right. What else is on here? CNC videos, Lewis, Eli is all I watch. Everyone else gets the video blocker. Are you satisfied with a quick? I guess. I haven't really used it that much. Do you know why some people did drill that hole? Because they don't know what is iCloud and they only want to get rid of it. You need to, no one that has the ability to take off a CPU shield, that has a hot air station that can take off no one that has a hot air station and an iPhone board doesn't know what iCloud locked is. No way. Please, bro, how to fix Jess's iCloud fix. Please help, bro. Should I re-hot? Sure, go ahead. I'm looking to see what else. Can you... Scary how many people have lost common sense. Honestly, up until now, I knew what baloney as a concept was. Didn't realize it had a legit background. Yeah, baloney, like... I don't really know how baloney and baloney got related. Is there an actual way to get around iCloud locked without... Where did that go? Without changing the board? No. I mean, I guess yes, but in order to be able to have the technical proficiency to really do a bona fide iCloud lock solution, you wouldn't have to ask that question. The technical proficiency required is extraordinary and requires a lot of equipment and years of experience. So once you have the equipment and years of experience, you'll have come across the solution and already know how to do that. So practically, no. Let's see. Thermite. I like that term. I just read about that term today. Jessa was on the right track with the Swiss cheese method, but to execute properly, it requires a precision CNC machine. I've got a precision CNC machine. Let's see. Did people really fixin' mom? Fixin' mom. Yeah, I saw you help fixin' mom. Yeah, love fixin' mom. Can I get admission in your school? Yes. Sign right up, pay the money, show up. Let's see. This is what chargebacks are made. I've only seen Lewis fix anything hard yet. What? So, okay. Sure, you can go ahead and believe that logical fallacy. Okay, fascinating man, yes. I've only seen Lewis fix one thing hard yet. That doesn't make any sense. Thousands in your store alone, you use them to check LCDs? No, we use them as training devices, which is a fantastic use for iCloud Lock. Let's see. Do you use iCloud devices to use for parts? I don't buy iCloud Lock devices, but if I have a repair that, let's say, someone sends me and I fix it, and then they end up kind of replacing the phone, they sent it to me, I know it's their phone, and then I say, hey, pay the invoice, and they say, you know, no. And then then we ask them to provide their iCloud credentials to unlock the device. And a lot of times they just aren't responsive because we're saying, hey, pay a bill, and they just don't want to hear that because they have reneged on our deal, so they abandon the device. So those are iCloud Lock devices. I know who the owner was. I know their passcode, but I don't know their Apple ID and password. So I end up using those for training devices. I thought Fixing Mom was you. No, Fixing Mom is Lewis. Let's see. Is your course a prerequisite to Lewis's course? No. Lewis doesn't teach. Jason teaches for Lewis. My course is learning how to think and really comprehensive about all the little components, how to measure them, how they fail, how a schematic works, how to source things, how to troubleshoot a problem when you don't know. Like in my course, you would learn how to troubleshoot backlight on iPhone 8. Lewis will do MacBook, so he does a lot of the same kind of material, but he doesn't teach himself personally anymore. Let's see. I don't think there's a solution for Touch ID. All right, I think we're at the end. So final thoughts. I absolutely love the iCloud Lock Unlock Please Bro video. I think it's a fantastic lesson on learning how to think and question authority, and even just before you do something like take a drill to a CPU, just go look for independent verification. Naturally be skeptical because it's something you've heard one time from someone that is just a perceived authority that you don't really know. That's big red flags right there. Next, do research. Do your own research and look at the comments. You see in the comments of the word April Fool and a lot of joking and ha ha, I'm not going to fall for that. Those should scream out to you as more valid, the ones that are negative, than the ones that say, worked for me. Those are the trolls. So you need to be able to kind of recognize that and work on your trolldar. Then you need to just kind of think logically and plausibly, and then accept your own consequences for choosing to do what somebody else. So use somebody else's judgment for your own. Don't do that. Be your own person. Be thoughtful and be a thinker. Ask questions. All right. Yeah, you need to be a diagnostician, not a hole driller. Okay, so I'm going to end this stream because this is just what I wanted to say as kind of a response to help the people. I mean, I do feel bad if you thought that this may actually work. That's, kind of a disappointment. I feel compassion for someone being disappointed. I don't give a shit if your dead board now has a hole in it. Your dead board is still a dead board. Who cares? That doesn't bother me. I don't think you lost anything. I don't think you ruined anything. You didn't have anything to begin with. An iCloud Lock board has no real value. It doesn't have any less value by having a CPU hole drilled in it. So I don't feel any sadness for those guys. But for those people, this sort of like kind of disappointment, I really want for you to think and learn and to and to watch this video and go read that Carl Sagan book and learn to be a skeptic. If you weren't raised that way culturally, to not question authority, throw that out the window. That's the thing that I want you to take away from this video. And that's what I'm gonna end this, and then I'm actually gonna I'm gonna do a repair stream where I address this giant pile of people trying Please Bro solutions and fucking up these giant stack of 6S backlight jobs. All right, that's the end of this one.